Okay, so hopefully everybody can hear us, and welcome to the Xsense launch webinar of MVN Animate and Analyze 2018. My name is Stefan. Some of you might know me already. I'm a product specialist here at Xsense. I'm together here with Monique Paulich and Felix. I will call him Baumgartner because I like the whole Red Bull stuff. Both of them are product specialists here at Xsense as well, and together we will be showing you the new MVN 2018 release for both the Animate and the Analyze side of things. So to go for the next slide, so what do we do here at Xsense? Now, a lot of people think that we're a hardware-based company, which we're in fact not. We're more of a software-based company. So what we do is we gather hardware, so gyroscopes, accelerometers, magnetometers, we combine those, and what we do is sensor fusion, and that's what the power of Xsense is. So we know how to fuse that data to get sensible data out of those hardware components. Now, what we do with that is we, as you can see on the right side, we create either single trackers for the industrial market or full body configurations for either mocap for the entertainment industry or mocap for research, rehabilitation, etc., etc. Now, what we use in these trackers are gyroscopes, magnetometers, and accelerometers. Now, one of the sensors, the magnetometers, what it does actually is it looks towards Earth's magnetic field to get heading in the data that we want. So the gyroscopes we use for orientation, and the accelerometer we use to determine the gravity of Earth. One of the downsides of that is that magnetometers, they tend to get distorted by magnetic disturbances. Now, how do you get magnetic disturbances? In floors, for example, you have rebar to reinforce concrete. This might cause magnetic disturbances. So what will happen is if one of those magnetometers get close to one of those magnetic disturbances, it will affect the heading of that magnetometer. Thus, it thinks it is pointing a different direction than it actually is pointing. Now, you see this a lot in furniture, for example, or especially new buildings. For example, in Japan, Tokyo, they use a lot of rebar and concrete, so it's pretty difficult to do recordings. And do keep in mind that this is something that happens with every inertial mocap system. So every inertial mocap system currently is using magnetometers as well. As well for vehicles. So imagine a car, that's quite a lot of steel in which you're driving, and that causes quite some magnetic disturbances. So to give you an idea, the areas where it's very difficult to do mocap in is, of course, pretty new buildings where a lot of steel is used, cars, container ships, factories where they use a lot of heavy machinery to actually do their mocap. Now, what's great with what we've done is we've actually had a fundamental technology breakthrough. So we actually solved the magnetic distortion within our system, which is, let me mute that real quick, which is, of course, incredible. We've done this with, of course, our development team. We've put in about 10 man-years of development. Next to that, we had a beta program that could help, that could get users to help us in improving our new engine even more. Now, we've launched this, of course, about a month ago. Now, how do you do it? So first of all, the new mocap engine extracts more information from the same data. So the data coming from the trackers was the same as what we had previously, but we do a lot more with that data to get to where we want to go and where we are currently going. Now, the real-time engine is using data and information from the past to get the current pose, so it's pretty forward processing. What the new Reprocessing HD does is it uses batches of data to get all the information to give you the poses that are correct. And this is of course a great thing, because this will, in the entertainment market, save you a cleanup time, and in the human motion measurement market saves you, or it gives you more accurate data. So for this part I'll leave Monique to talk a little bit about this. So there you go.
Thanks. Just switch places. Yeah, so what are the characteristics of the new MVN engine? So for first and foremost, the new MVN 2018 release is immune to magnetic distortions because of the new way how we handle the data. Next to that, another characteristic is that there is advanced skin artifact modeling. We will go in on the next slide. We will go a little bit deeper into this. Next to that, also what Stefan already mentioned is that over the last 10 years we have obtained experience in working with MVN products, biomechanical modeling, and with this new architecture, so this new way of calculating your 3D kinematic data, we also made the new software future-proof. So this new architecture of calculating things, it's a lot easier to implement other parameters as well. So to come back to the skin artifact modeling, we realized that within the human body there are several body segments which have a little bit more loose skin as opposed to other body segments. So, for example, on the shoulder it's a very bony surface. The skin is tight over there. The skin doesn't have a lot of fatty tissue, for example, so not a lot of additional volume due to either fat or maybe muscle. However, when you compare the right shoulder characteristics with the characteristics of the right upper leg, for example, right upper leg, you can move the skin around. The skin moves around as you walk, and especially as you run or start doing other high dynamic movements. So this is also something that you see in the graph. The right shoulder shows only a small amount of difference in degrees as you are moving, while the upper leg shows a lot of difference in degrees. So this is a rotation error, let's say, due to skin artifacts. With the new software, we take these into account, and what Stefan mentioned with the Reprocess HD, this is where the skin artifact modeling happens. In there, we can correct for these differences. So next to that, we have done a lot of different forms of validation already to really be sure that we provide a valid and accurate product to our customers and to our new customers as well. So with the new engine, one of the goals were consistency, so consistent data. Anytime you set up the system and you calibrate the same person over and over again, the data will be produced in the same way. You will get the same data, no weird offsets. And next to that, the comparison with optical has been done, proving the accuracy of the system. These validations, or these proof of concepts, are both internally as well as externally validated. So internally by ourselves, or by like the NEMO project is a European funded project where PhD students, for example, do a validation study, who work both at multiple universities as well as in our office. And external validations performed by our customers for them to independently validate the system that they want to do more work and then publish their work with a validated system. Otherwise, the publications would not be academically accepted. So just to show you a few outcomes of a validation study that has been performed. So in this graph, you see a joint angle comparison. So for the solid lines in these graphs are the data produced by MVN, and the dashed lines are data created by or captured with an optical system. just as you're used from MVN, all the three different colors represent the different joint angle axis. So you go from abduction, adduction to internal, external rotation in green and flexion extension in blue. What you can see is the lines are very close to each other. They follow exactly the same patterns. Sorry. Moving on to the next slide, you'll actually see the data, the numbers that go with these graphs. We call this data the root mean squared differences, not necessarily the root mean squares error, because at the moment we're not so sure anymore if there actually is an error or if it's just a difference, and both systems could be accounted for this difference. So you see in this graph, I won't walk you through all the numbers, but you see that the accuracy of the joint angle data for the lower body in this case are ranging from 2.7 up to approximately 6.5 degrees. To tell you a little bit more on how the system works, how the system performs, we will provide you guys again with a new white paper, a new MVN Whitepaper. We had this paper already before for the former systems, but because the new MVN 2018 software works in such a different way, we will provide you, of course, naturally, with a new one. It's still in progress, but feel free to ask us about the white paper that you're interested in, and we'll be happy to send you as soon as it's done. But it will also be available on the website. So this shows you an example. The next few slides will be videos show an example of the former software compared with the new software. You see the light blue avatar called before, so this naturally is done with the previous MVN versions. And the orange one is processed with the with the new MVN 2018 engine. So what this shows is that, I hope it's clear for you guys, but the pelvis is rotated for 90 degrees, for example. This is typically due to magnetic disturbances. So when there is, as Stefan explained, when magnetic disturbances are present, the heading of the magnetometers is deviated, and this will result in a horizontal drift of the avatar. So this is exactly what you see happening here with the avatar rotating its pelvis over the horizontal axis. What you see, obviously, is in the orange avatar, this does not happen anymore because of the new software. Improved 3D position. Again, the orange avatar walking on the left side in this, at this instant. So you see that the 3D positional data got a lot more accurate because of a lot of different reasons. But this shows you the end result of the difference in the new software. Partially, the new 3D positional accuracy is due to the way that we do contact handling and that we calculate the external contact. So external contact means the contact that your body has with the outside world carrying your weight. What you see here is the height tracking became a lot more accurate as well. Kun jij me even overnemen? Ik heb een kriebeltje.
So again, for the next slide, what you see is our skin artifact modeling. Now you can clearly see that the blue avatar has quite some sliding feet. That's really due to the movement of trackers on partially upper legs, maybe a bit the pelvis. So what happens here is it gets data and it wants to translate that to position and orientation, which causes the foot slide. Now what our HD processor does is, with the skin artifact modeling, it tries to filter that out. And for the, I think this is, yeah, again, spot on motion capture. What happens here is again, you see on the right side, you see a push-up where you see quite a lot of, you know, floating of feet, etc. This is being caused by not properly detecting contacts, or at least working with the contacts together with, of course, skin artifact modeling. So with those things combined, we can actually get spot-on motion capture from pretty much any data. If it's squatting, push-ups, what you just saw, you know, extreme jumping, etc., etc. Now, how did we manage to do this all? Mainly with quite some help from our clients as well. So we've started a beta program in the early stages where we could already process data for clients. So they had to send over files, we would process them for them, and we'd send them back and ask clients to give, good feedback on where we could still improve, because this is really important for us. Without that, we will not be able to, reach the goals that we want to reach. So again, we want to really thank our clients for participating and helping us in, improving our software even more. Just to give you an idea, I'm not sure if you were quick in reading, but we had some market reactions, of course, from a few of our beta clients that were participating in this program, and so far they have been really happy. Again, with the launch of 2018, we've had a lot of good feedback from other clients as well. So far we're really happy with the results, and I hope you guys are as well. If you haven't tried yet, then you will probably be amazed with what we've done. So for now, what we're going to do is show you a demo of the software, of course. So you can see I already have Felix live, although he's not calibrated yet. Now you can already see that, of course, we've changed the avatar into a new avatar. So we really wanted to give the new MVN software a good feel of that it's brand new. That's why we also changed the name to Analyze instead of Analyze and Animate instead of MVN Studio, to really give you an idea of that it's a new product. I mean, it's a totally new engine. We've redone it pretty much entirely. So with that, of course, quite some user interface changes were made as well. So what I want to start off with is first our configure session window. What we've done here is make it even easier for the client and more direct to set up systems or even predefine multiple systems. So what you see here is let me change the name to Felix real quick. So you can change the name, the color is set, of course, which can be changed afterwards. I mean, most of it is pretty familiar, of course. We have the suite configuration, accept systems, and scenario. What I really love is the way we detect the system right now. So you can instantly see if the system is being detected or not, and if one of the trackers or more of the trackers are not connected. So it is not necessary to open the hardware window anymore. You can just leave this closed. You can see on the spot if the system is live and just go to calibration. What we've done as well is we've added the body dimensions to the configure session window instead of the setup pane. So what you can do is here is set up the body measurements, of course. Again, as what we had before, you can of course save and load them. What the great thing about this is it will automatically save these body measurements as well. So if you restart MVN, it will have the old body measurements of that specific person still in there. Now, what I see a lot in the entertainment industry is that they often use the same actors or mocap people than once. So it will be convenient that you start up MVN, you just have the person inside the suit, you don't have to redo body measurements or load them, they're just in there. And the great thing is that you can even predefine multiple people. So if you're not willing to use Felix, for example, you can go to the next person and switch this on and switch that one off instead. So in that way you can easily switch back and forth to different people without really changing any of the settings. One major thing that changed as well is the way we define props. So let me just switch one on real quick. So you can see here that most of it is still the same. So you choose the type of prop you want to use. the segment you want to connect it to, and the point of that specific segment. But what is missing right now is defining the X and Y axis of the physical tracker. Now, this is really a great thing, because we saw a lot of people fooling around with that, because it was pretty hard to define what the exact axis of that specific tracker was. So what we did now is we actually incorporated that into the calibration itself. So it's kind of more common sense on how to calibrate. So if you are holding, for example, a sword, you would guess that the sword is pointing forwards. So that's the way you hold the sword in your end post position, and then you do the normal wall calibration. Same with different. If you have a crutch, for example, you know that if you're holding the crutch normally is down. So it's common sense in how you calibrate the props these days. What I mostly like about the way we do props now is, of course, it shows up here that it does or does not detect it. But that makes it a lot easier for the Awinda system as well, because back in the days with the Awinda system you had to switch off a tracker to introduce the prop and then switch off the shutdown tracker again. This is not needed anymore. It physically searches for a prop tracker if you say that you will be adding a prop tracker into the system. So that's pretty neat. So Monique will tell you a little bit about our new sync options.
Yeah, so just to handle the last tab that we see in the configure session window over here is a sync tab. So the sync tab will be activated as soon as you have your Awinda system connected there, seeing as the Awinda station also acts as your sync station within the same MVN system, let's say. If you want to do your third-party synchronization, so when I talk about synchronization, I mean TTL pulse related synchronization, connected through BNC ports. And with the Awinda system, you would sync over here. And if you have a link system, you would connect an additional sync station, let's say. So the hardware would be the same as the Awinda station at the moment. And then go to the sync tab over here and then switch on and configure your sync station as you would normally also do.
So now it's time to perform a calibration. So keep in mind that with the current calibration process, so the end post plus walk, there are two things that became a lot more important. It's the placement of trackers. You really want to make sure that the trackers are on the correct placements, so make sure that they don't tend to move with the skin that much, or at least less is better. And of course your initial end pose, because every offset you introduce during the end pose will of course be in the data as well. So it's important that you do an as perfect end pose as possible. So Felix, if you can please stand there ready for the end pose. So the new calibration routine works as follows. So Felix starts to stand in an as good as end pose as he can do. He holds that pose for about 4 to 5 seconds. So let me start the calibration. So he will have to stand in an end pose. So let me move a little bit. And now he has to walk in a direct line straight forward and rotate again. And walk back. Now, what it does is it starts to process the calibration to give you, of course, the best data as possible. Do keep in mind that it's always good to, after the calibration has been processed, to walk around for 10-15 seconds to really warm up the system and iron out the small kinks that are still in there. So what will happen after this? It will ask me to apply the calibration. Now this is a pretty important thing. When you want to apply the calibration, make sure that the person is standing in what you want the x-axis to be. So Felix is now directly standing towards me. So if I hit apply, you will see that the avatar is now pointing, what we previously had was north. but now is the x-axis. This especially is important with multi-person people. Make sure that if you use 2 or 3 systems at the same time, that once you apply the calibration, that they are facing the same direction. Otherwise you will have offsets in your heading of each character, of course. So what we're going to do now is actually do a short recording. Let me see where I'm actually saving it. Webinar, so there you go. So Felix, if you could please do a small recording. I'm recording now. There you go. Okay, so let me save that file. Now what I actually want to show you is what happens with the current live engine. So recordings, no, webinar was already on top. Now let me zoom in a little bit so you can clearly see that, especially with push-ups, that hands, they tend to float a little bit, the feet go up in the air. Now this is something which seems not accurate, and especially for entertainment, it's a lot of cleanup work which you don't want to do. Again, with squats, now with Felix it's not that bad actually, but you see that the foot really tends to slide, and that's really due to skin artifacts that happen on most likely the upper legs. Now, how to process this file is actually pretty easy. First things first, I always need to make sure that my scenario was set currently to single level. We are looking into getting multi-level processing in the software as well, but that's currently not out yet. So keep in mind that processing is currently only being done in single level or in no level, and Monique will explain a little bit about that later on. All I have to do now is go to the process button and say reprocess this in HD. Now keep in mind the processing, because you know, it uses quite a lot of data, and it tries to you know, make your data better. It takes quite some time. We normally say approximately 10 times the length of the file. In this case it won't take that long because the take was pretty short, but during the processing, let me just go through a few of the other interface changes that we have done. One of the changes which I really like is actually in the export. It's a pretty simple change, but it's very convenient for clients. So if I want to export a file, I had to go to export options in options preferences to actually change my export options. Now this is pretty inconvenient because you want to have this, you know, as close to the exporter as possible. So if I would like to export to for example MVNX or FBX, I can directly go to show options to give me all the export options that comes with that specific exporter. So if I change it to FBX, for example, you'll see that these options change. So on the fly I can actually change my export options to my liking. What we've also done is, especially if you want to do batch processing, which for a lot of people is pretty important, because you want to, you know, do a lot of takes and then get all the files batch processed and even export it to the specific file type that you like. Now what we've done with this is actually, if you go to export and then batch export, so we don't have a batch processor, we have a batch export. Now if you go here, you can of course select the input path where all the files that you want to have processed or exported are sitting in. Of course an output path where you want to export them to. And then select the specific exporter you want to use, for example FBX. And what I can choose now is I want to first reprocess my MVN file in either no reprocessing, in normal quality, which is the same as the live engine, or of course HD quality. Now what this does is it will first reprocess your MVN file. You can choose to save the MVN file after reprocessing, so it stays as the reprocessed file, and it will then export it to FBX. So what we normally say is you do your captures during the day, you do your processing during the night, and the next day you have everything in FBX, C3D, MVNX format, whatever you like. One of the small things we've changed as well is under options and preferences. So the network streamer, we kind of gave some extra new features. So what we previously had was you could add different IP addresses, but the settings for the stream would always stay the same. What we have now is you can actually select a specific stream, of course change the port, which you could do previous as well, but you can actually alter these options per stream. So each stream has its own options. It's probably used a lot in, for example, live entertainment, where you want to stream to different packages which need different types of data. For example, Unreal uses Quaternion, and Motion Builder, for example, uses Euler. So in this way, you want to have the power to actually have different streams made possible to you at the same time. So that's pretty powerful. Let me see. And now we see that the file actually currently is processed. So let me. Sorry?
I can do the graphs.
Oh nee, dat kunnen we beter nadat je no-level hebt uitgelegd. Dan doorgaan naar graphs. So as you can see, we've processed the file, and I'm not sure how the frame rate is with WebEx currently, but we could even send over the file if needed. So you can really see that the feet and the hands are a lot more stable after the processing. So let's go to the squat real quick. And the same here. So what this does is it eradicates all the foot slide and all the faulty data that we, mainly get from skin artifacts, and also of course magnetic distortion, because we just don't have any problems with magnetic distortion anymore. So after this processing, Monique will explain a little bit about the no-level processing and a few other cool interface features. And I think after that we have some time for some questions and answers. So if you do have any questions, please prepare them. We will answer them after this demo shortly. So Monique?
Yeah, thanks. All right, so the reason for Stefan explaining about the single-level reprocessing HD is because this scenario is mainly developed or aimed at the animation market. It causes your avatar to move very smoothly. A lot less or almost no manual tweaking is needed to really make your animations look smooth, or move smooth, that is. For the biomech market, so this is my angle of expertise. The avatar moving smooth. This is not what is important for the biomechanical market. So with biomechanical market, I mean really data analysis within sports science, rehabilitation, the human-robot interaction, whatever. If you really want to focus on your 3D kinematic data and you really want to have this data as accurate as possible, you actually don't need to use or don't want to use single level scenario. The best scenario that you can use for your 3D kinematic data is the no level scenario. So the no level scenario pretty much deletes or just disregards the positional data. So it will cause your avatar to levitate into the air. Before, the no-level scenario was called pelvis fixed tight, which fixes the pelvis above the origin and just lets your body move. All the 3D kinematic data will be in there in terms of joint angle, segment orientations, etc. But in this case, we don't need the avatar to look as smooth. So what Stefan mentioned about the skin artifacts being there. Those in the single level, these will be corrected in terms of fixing the feet or any contact point. Fix them nicely on the floor. in the no level scenario, we will make sure that the joint angles, so the orientation data, is as accurate as we can. And this is also where we reached the validity levels that I showed you before. In the meantime, to show you some relevant layout things in MVN itself. So the graph interface changed a little bit. So you can't choose anymore that you want to have with the drop-down menus that you want to have 3 graphs, for example. But what you can do now is just you can add graphs just by clicking the number, and just make your own matrix of graphs the way that you want to have that. I would say a lot more convenient than it was before. So next to that, over here we have restore layout and save layout. These are also new buttons, and what they mean is, for example, when you plotted some data, so we'll just drag something in there, show the numbers, and we would like to show our avatar from a flexible view, and for example also always from the left. This layout, I can imagine that you would use the same layout over and over again if you're, for example, always doing gate analysis. What you can do is save as, so we would call this walking view. Just type it in, hit enter, and it will be there in the list. Next time when you have a different view and you want to reload your layout, just go to the other one, go to restore layout and hit walking view, and you will be immediately again in that view. You can save anything you want. If you don't like the default window of MVN Studio, of MVN 2018, sorry, by default it's in free move. I prefer trailing myself, so I can put it on trailing, and if you go to the file default, it will actually change your file default, in this case to trailing. So by now it's also done processing, and what you see happening is that the pelvis of the avatar is always in the same place. So it will look a little bit strange to the people who are not used to this, but this is how we make sure that the 3D kinematic data has the highest level of accuracy that we can provide to you, which by now is also proven to be comparable to optical data accuracy. I think that's what I wanted to mention.
No, I think that's it.
Okay. This is it, guys. I hope that you guys learned some new stuff. And at the moment there's some room for Q&A, so we will open the chat. And you can ask your questions in the chat. I also, during the webinar, we saw some questions coming in already. Let's have a look. Okay, so how can you calibrate if the person cannot hold an end pose, for example, due to bony deformities? Okay, thank you for this question. At the moment, we still need either an end pose or a T pose in combination with the wall calibration. If there is some offset, so for example, due to bony deformations, it can happen that the end pose is very difficult to assume. In that case, it will actually still cause an offset in your system. It doesn't mean that your full system is not accurate anymore. If the offset, for example, is in an arm, you can still perfectly walk around with the system, and the offset will be shown in the arm.
Difference between Animate and Analyze. So the MVN Animate engine is mainly you have MVN Animate, MVN Animate Pro. So the MVN Animate is focused for the offline pipeline, so exporting files and then going into 3D software packages. The Animate Pro has 2 extra features, which is the streaming option and timecode support. And for Analyze, what's extra there is I think live graphs, some extra MVNX exporter options, and am I forgetting something?
And the Siemens Technomatic stream.
Yeah.
Within the network streamer.
Yeah. So in principle, the Analyze is the the highest version of software that you can currently get. But there are not a lot of features that are interesting for entertainment clients. So that's why we separated it in Animate and Analyze.
So next question, what setting would you recommend for treadmill walking? This recommendation actually has not changed in comparison to previous software releases. For treadmill walking, you're generally not that interested in positional data anyway, except for interpositional data within the body itself. For treadmill walking, otherwise you would walk for kilometers away from the center of the screen in MVN. So for treadmill walking in general, I would always recommend in the previous software to use the pelvis fixed tight scenario. So in this case, definitely the no level scenario with two advantages. One, it will just look a lot better. It will make a lot more sense without your avatar walking out of the screen. And next to that, in the no level, you will have the highest 3D kinematic data quality that we can offer you. So definitely no level scenario there.
So for the last question, the demo about snowboarding and driving motion, seems to me that hip is fixed. Yes, for this we've used the no level scenario. That is correct.
Also in these scenarios, because the positional data does not have the highest importance here in these applications. So in these applications also the 3D kinematic data has the highest focus. This is what you're researching. So in that case, we just leave the positional data out to raise the other data.
And I think if you look at snowboarding, for example, and I do know that for entertainment clients, position might be of importance. We would still advise to use no level and then keyframe the position of that actual character. Simply because, I mean, when sliding, we do not track position because we don't have any active contact points at that point.
How to calibrate hand positions? I think maybe you might be referring to the hand touch calibration that we had in previous software releases, if you agree.
Probably, yeah.
I think so. So at the moment this is not necessary anymore. So in the beginning you have the end pose plus walk, for example. During the full calibration process, also the hand arm segments are included. And as soon as you finish the calibration, you process, you click apply, and you just move around and also make sure to move the arms and the hands. Then the hand touch calibration is not even needed anymore. So this is why we also deleted it from the new software.
Okay, do you have a plan to add absolute position tracking, like using extra cameras and markers, for example? Now we do know that clients are already doing this, currently using external position data will of course cause foot slide because our engine currently doesn't take that data into account. But who knows, as Monique mentioned before in the slides, this engine gives room for a lot more than just mocap. So maybe in the future we will be looking into that.
Okay. Last question. The rest of the question, I think we can include them in the text when releasing the video of the webinar.
Yeah, we can do that. Possible change yaw orientation of the current. So within the Unity plugin, changing the direction of the character is currently not possible, but that's due to the plugin itself. Do keep in mind that this plugin is open source, and if you do have some smart programmers at your company, it shouldn't be that difficult to actually get the plugin to work and to be able to do that. But currently, yes, that's not possible. Okay, gaan we nog iets? Of?
Yeah, I see this question. Holding a tablet or a screen.
Let's do these 3 questions, and then again the rest of the answers we will of course answer in the video itself or in an email blast that we will be providing. So when we are using the lower body model, the trunk and arms are still shown. Can we switch this off in the new software? No, I'm afraid not. This currently is still showing the full model, but it might be a good feature request. So we're definitely taking that into account. Let me see if in the 2018 release it's a problem if the hand are close to tablet or screen. No, that's why we invented our magnetic immunity, so it shouldn't be a problem. No.
So feel free to walk around with the tablet or with the laptop in your hands, and don't be worried about any drift. That will be fine.
Does MVN Analyze produce graph of linear velocity and pelvis during walking?
Yes. However, in a no-level scenario, I'm not too sure if this data will be there. I actually don't expect that the velocity data will be there. But when you just, for example, with your real-time engine, so just no HD processing, then this data will definitely be there. For the velocity, I'm not too sure. I don't dare to answer you with 100% certainty. Please check it out if the data is still there with the no level.
See import deviation anybody software.
Yeah, so this is anybody software is for biomechanical analysis. To import, just 2 weeks ago we had an Anybody Xsense webinar. In there you will also find some contact details of an Anybody employee called Anand. We just exported to BVH actually without any post processing, or maybe single level post processing. Feel free to ask anybody what kind of data they need to use. So either if you can use the no level scenario, or if you just input your not reprocessed HD data, which is still more accurate than the data from before.
Okay, so last question. Earlier on, the mannequin was in push-up position with its toes bent. How was the orientation of the toes being bent determined? When the mannequin was floating, the toes weren't bent. So yeah, that's so keep in mind that our suit uses 17 trackers, but we give you poses for 23 body segments. And I think one of the best examples for that is, of course, the feet. So we only have one tracker for the foot, but we do determine the movements of toes together with contact points. So that's the reason why you saw the toes being straight when up in the air, but go down when they touch the floor.
Over here a question, can we transfer data to other IP as well as the host?
Yes, that is possible.
Yeah, simple answer. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. Let me see. Well, again, thanks for your attention. I will leave the WebEx on for a little bit longer. So if you do have some additional questions, feel free to ask them. We will answer them in an email blast or in the video that will be online soon. Again, thanks for your attention.
If you want to have more information on how to use the new software, feel free to visit the tutorial.xsense.com or base.xsense.com. Tutorial, obviously you can find the tutorial videos in there. On base.xsense.com, this is our forum and FAQ. Over there we have written articles about the new software already to provide you with instructions on how to use this and how to get started. And also on the forum, a few questions has been asked already about the new software, so feel free to look around and also how other customers are using this. To start off, you can just freely download the new software on the website. If you still have a software maintenance agreement, you can just download it. In terms of downloading, it's just another software update, nothing that special in terms of downloading. Please also make sure that you do perform a firmware update on your system. Both the MVN Link and the MVN Windows system both need to be updated. Yep. Otherwise you can't use the new software. Also for instructions, you can also find them on Base.
Good.
That's it.
Yeah. So thanks again. Especially thanks for your attention. I hope you enjoyed the demo, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.